here, Yoga for Everybody, representing Provenance Vie Saine for a healthy lifestyle. I'm here to teach you guys another one of my favorite yoga poses because it's so rejuvenating. It's a supine spinal twist. The reason why this pose is so rejuvenating is because of the fact that we're twisting those internal organs in the abdomen. Okay, so it's going to improve the function of all those internal organs. It's going to improve the circulation of the blood throughout the body. It's going to strengthen the shoulders, the back, and the hips. So why don't we join together on our mats in a seated position, and I'll show you guys how to safely get into and then back out of this fabulously rejuvenating supine spinal twist pose. From a comfortable seated position, let's go ahead and swing the feet around flat to the mat. The safest way to work our way down to a supine position is going to be by using the strength of the hamstring muscle of one of the thighs. You can choose whichever thigh is easier for you to use. It really doesn't matter. And then on the next exhale of the breath, we'll go ahead and use the strength of the thigh to push into the hands, thereby allowing us to slowly roll down. Okay, and then we can bring both knees into the chest and maybe just rock from side to side for a couple resting breaths. Notice how my hands are on the hamstrings. A lot of people have a tendency to put pressure on the knees here. We never want to put direct pressure on the knees. Instead, we transfer that weight and that pressure onto a larger muscle. And in this case, it's the hamstrings. If we are having trouble getting comfortable in this pose, something that we can do to help modify it is to put a cushion of some kind in between the calves and the hamstrings, okay? So like a blanket or a pillow, even a rolled up towel or some sweatshirts, anything to add some cushion. We could also open the knees wider than hip width apart to make a little more room in the middle if we need to. Once we have established that deep belly breathing pattern, the Ujjayi breath, where we originate each breath from the diaphragm, bring that breath slowly up into the chest, and then release the air from the belly and then the chest. Okay, so it might take a while to get used to that breathing pattern, and when you do, then we can start to add some more movement here. Okay, so let's start just by dropping the feet to the mat, hip width apart. Okay? Then we want to kind of turn the hips and the pelvis so that the low back is flat to the mat. Then we can lift the feet up, keeping the knees directly above the hips. Okay? Then we'll bring the arms to a T position so the wrists are straight out from the shoulders. On the next exhale of the breath, we can then start to twist and lower the knees down to one side of the mat. Okay, so then right before we hit the ground, we'll inhale and we'll slowly bring the knees back to center. Okay, next exhale, we'll draw the knees down to the other side. And then right before we hit the mat, we'll inhale, we'll bring the knees straight back up. Let's go ahead and flow with this for a few breaths, just to help warm up the spine in preparation for the twist. Notice how the chest stays open to the sky and the shoulder blades stay on the mat. Keeping those core muscles engaged to help support the knees as they lift and lower from side to side. Inhaling center, exhaling down. Then, when we're ready to hold the pose, we can go ahead and lower the knees all the way down to the mat, stacking the knees and the hips, lifting and shifting the shoulder blades to keep the chest open to the sky. The final step is to turn the head to look away from the knees. So if you're twisting to the right first, you'll look out over the left shoulder. Only, of course, if that feels good. Okay, if it doesn't feel good, we can just stay looking straight up to the sky. Another thing we could do is we could just rest that top hand on the top hip. Okay, so if we're not quite ready for such a dramatic twist, okay, we can just start here and slowly but surely try and lower the shoulder blade, open the chest, and then maybe after a couple more breaths, you'll be able to extend that arm straight up. When we're ready to transition to the next side, we can go ahead and inhale, bring the knees to center, and then exhale, slowly rolling those legs all the way down to the other side. So if you started on the right, you should bring the legs now over to the left. And then, of course, keeping the chest open to the sky. Remembering, of course, that we could always try turning the head to look away from the bent knees. Another thing we can do to modify this fabulous pose is to add some cushion in between the legs. Okay, so in a similar way that you would place a pillow between the knees while side sleeping in bed. Okay, so I'm going to take my blanket and I'll just show you guys You can experiment with placing it, under the ankle and the knees, okay, to keep the joints stacked. And when we're ready to come out of the pose, let's go ahead and inhale, bring the knees to center. And then on the exhale, we could either bring those knees back into the chest for a couple resting breaths. Remembering, of course, how fabulous it is to rock from side to side. And then when we are ready to come out of the pose, let's first bring the arms up over the head. And then we can roll over onto one side. And then we can slowly push ourselves up to a comfortable seated position. Thanks for practicing the Supine Spinal Twist pose with me here on Provenance Vie Saine for a healthy lifestyle. Thanks again for practicing. Namaste.